We are very honored that you have chosen to join us tonight. We gather tonight as sons and daughters of a king. We gather tonight as people who have claimed the promise of God in their life. And oh my goodness, how wonderful are the promises of God. We gather tonight because he has given us to each other to share in those promises. And you are the promise for my life, as all of us are the promise to each other, that we get to share the journey of what it means to be a child of God. He gave us the privilege of honoring those that are teaching us and going alongside of us and helping us see God in very real ways. And that's why we have gathered tonight, is because there is one among us who truly is living out the promise of God in a very full way. And we are here to honor him and to say thank you for letting us see Jesus in you. We are also standing on the shoulders of giants, of people that have also gone before Stuart tonight, people that have received this award in the past. There's an old hymn that says, "What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how sweet to walk in that pilgrim way, leaning on the everlasting arms." We're not only claiming the promise today, but we're leaning on the arms of those that have gone before us. I'd like to honor those that are here tonight. Vicki Bartholomew is here. Sam could not be here with us tonight, but we honor Vicki for walking with Sam through this journey. Where are you, Vicki? I can't see you, but we honor you. Miles and Linda Ezell. Miles, I've seen you a couple of times. Thank you, Miles, for being here tonight. And Beth Harwell, Speaker Harwell, have you joined us yet tonight? She is going to be here, and we honor her again tonight as one of those whose arms we are leaning on and learning about God. Joe and Honey Rodgers were two people that claimed amazing promises on this side of the ocean and all the way to France, and being ambassadors not only for our country, but being ambassadors for their father. Honey Rodgers is here tonight, and we'd like to honor her right now. If she would just stand. Welcome Honey Rodgers to our dinner. There she is. It was so very, very important to Joe Rodgers that he be not only just an ambassador of his heavenly Father, but he be an ambassador to our country. Our country was so meaningful to Joe Rodgers. And I'm sure that he would not want us to ever forget what it means to be a citizen of this country, as we are citizens in God's country. So tonight we're going to stand in his honor and pledge the flag of the country that he's so ably represented. Leading us in that pledge tonight are going to be three of Stuart's children. His three daughters, we would love to have you come and lead us in that pledge. We have Caroline, Marley, and Layla. Girls, please. Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, girls, so much. Such a wonderful thing. Enjoy your dinner. As soon as Stuart's pastor comes and leads us in our invocation. Pastor Bill Wellens, the pastor of the Bible Fellowship Church, will now lead us in prayer.
Would you join me as I pray? Father, thank you for the honor that it is to join with a group of men and women who represent your church and your redemptive work in our city. Thanks for the Operation Andrew group, who first and foremost love you, and second, embody a deep desire to see you transform our city for your glory. Thanks for leadership of our city and our state, gifted leaders who have given their very lives to the good of its people. Thank you for Joe and Honey Rodgers, who saw fit with others to give this award that many might look and see the greatness of servant leadership in our community, and that even as they see the greatness of the work and the service of someone's hands, that they would in turn see and declare you great as well. And thank you for my friend Stuart McWhorter, a man of character, great character. A man of profound humility, marvel at his ability to listen and to hear and to learn from others. And a man of sincere compassion, who cares, who is quick to help, and who gets great joy in providing hope to others. Finally, a man who desires nothing more than to be conformed more and more into the image of your Son, Jesus, to follow him and to be sent by him to do your work. Thank you for the favor that you have shined upon him. Thank you for the blessings, the way you have blessed the work of his hands, and thank you for the privilege that we have to honor his servant leadership tonight. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
I'd like to share a little bit of the work of OAG, and I'm going to open with a story. The story is told of Peter Arnett, a CNN news reporter in the Middle East, was reporting on the war that was raging there. He had a press pass that he wore. And as he was walking through the streets one day, a gentleman came up carrying a small little girl that had obviously been wounded by the war. And he said, "Oh, Mr. Arnett, please come quickly. You can get us through the blockades of the city because of your press pass. Please take us to the hospital. That is the only way this child will live, is if you help." And Peter Arnett quickly said, come, get in the car, let's go. And so he put the baby in the car with the gentleman, and they drove through the streets as fast as he could, winding around in barricades and going over rocky roads with this child whimpering in the back seat, whimpering of pain, trying to breathe. They got to the hospital and they met them out, and they carried the child in very quickly. And the doctors were standing, and they took the child from the man and carried her back behind those doors. Peter Arnett reports, he said, I didn't really know what to do. So he said, I simply sat down with this gentleman. And he said, we sat there, and he said, there are times where there are no words. We just sat. Pretty soon the doors opened, and the doctor walked out, and he said, I could tell by the look on his face what had happened. The doctor looked at the man, and he said, I'm sorry. She didn't make it. The man dropped his head. Mr. Arnett reports, I had to say something. And so he said, I looked at him and I said, sir, I'm so sorry. He said, I've never lost a child. I don't know what it would be. I don't know what to say. This man looked at Mr. Arnett and he said, oh, sir. He said, that little girl was not my child. I'm a Jewish settler, and that little girl was a Palestinian refugee's child. But at some point, we're all one. Friends, that's the work of OAG. Even in this city that we call the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, we are all one at the foot of the cross. We must come together as our city grows by 80 people a day, and our churches are not growing by 80 people a day. What will our city be in a few years? It is up to us to lock arms and stand for Christ. The work of OAG is being expanded this year. We're going to continue to reach out to business, and I'm going to ask Chris and Nathan and Stan to come and join me at this point. We're going to continue the work that was started by Charles McGowan and Mike Arrington, the past presidents of OAG. They've done a wonderful job of building a great foundation, but now it's time to step even further. Chris and Nathan have started the work for our business leaders and our young entrepreneurs that is going to reach out, and I'm going to ask them to simply tell you what their dream and their vision is and how you can help them.
Thank you, Rhonda. So my name is Nathan Muting, like Rhonda just said, and I've helped to start a mentoring program called the Oak Project through Operation Andrew Group, which I've been on the board on for about a year now. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of what it means for a mentee position, because clearly I'm not a mentor. And for me, in my life, I came to Lipscomb 5 years ago. And since then, people just like you and many, many, many of you have impacted me by coming along and believing in me, because at the end of the day, we can be as ambitious as we want to and try to kick down all the doors that we want to, but we can't do it without the wisdom, without the guidance and the help of the older generation, more experienced. So as we start this, this year's our first year. We launched it. We've got over 40 mentees and 20 mentors. We've seen some amazing backing from people in this room, and we're very, very grateful for it. Myself, I'm extremely humbled to be here. There are many of you that I would love to thank, so thank you. I'll come find you afterwards. And I'm going to hand it over to Chris to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing.
Again, my name is Chris Kinney, and I've had the pleasure and the honor of getting to be involved with the Oak Project and helping start it with Nathan. I really just want to tell you all a story tonight, a story that I didn't know coming in. It's the story of a man named John Minder, who was the son of some Swiss immigrants who was born in Akron, Ohio. John accepted Christ at the age of 17 and eventually felt called to start up a spiritual training center where he wanted to train up ministry leaders in Florida. He started the institute there in 1932 and was actually served as a dean for many years. But one Sunday came along and he was asked to speak at Easter Sunday at a church in a nearby small Baptist church in a rural community. So John goes out and shows up and proceeds to inform the head pastor that he will indeed not be speaking, but that his student that accompanied him would actually be preaching. This was not only news to the head pastor, but was news to the student as well. And after several desperate attempts to get out of the unvolunteered for speaking engagement, needless to say, John's persistence paid off, and Billy Graham preached his first sermon to a small rural church in Florida. Billy Graham has impacted over 2 billion people for the cause of Christ through the sharing of the gospel. More personally, he is the reason that we are here tonight, and he is the reason the work of God through his life is the reason that this ministry exists. But it might have never happened without John Minder. Mentors, you will never know the impact that you have on your mentees and how your legacy might be defined through their life. Operation Andrew Group through the Oak Project, we want to bring these two groups, mentors and mentees, together as one for the betterment of our city and for the glory of God Almighty. Mentors, we are so excited that you want to join with us in raising up the next generation of leaders here in Nashville. It is your leadership and care that is essential to growing our churches, our communities, and our city. But we realize that all those groups are made up of individuals, and we believe that God wants to shape and grow all of us together, one life at a time. This is the heart behind the Oak Project, and the reason that we believe that God wants to do great things through it. And who knows, you might just be raising up the next Billy Graham. Thank you all.
Guys, stay here for just a minute. These two guys came along at a time where this program was just languishing a bit. And I can't tell you how grateful and what an answer to prayer they are to take the leadership of this program. This is a program for both men and women, am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
That we need both men and women to serve as mentors.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
need men and women that are prizing to be mentees and to be Christian leaders in the next generation, young leaders now in this generation to grab a mentor. Everyone can be a mentor, everyone can be a mentee. Is that right?
That's right.
Good deal. Thanks, guys, so much for what you're doing. The other arm that has been with OAG and has been associated with this ministry for so long has been our service to children in the metro schools. We had a wonderful director, and she was snagged by one of our schools that desperately needed a vice principal. And yet God gave us her replacement just as much as a gift as he gave us when he gave us Mary. Stan Weber is our new director for United for Hope, a program connecting churches to schools. Stan Weber.
Root causes and causal effects are not new conversations, nor is affixing blame a recent phenomenon. Come with me. Let's eavesdrop in on a conversation that Jesus was having with his disciples, as told in the Gospel of John from the Message translation. Walking down the street, Jesus saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked, "Rabbi, who sinned here, this man or his parents, causing him to be born blind?" Jesus said, "You're asking the wrong question. You're looking for someone to blame. There's no such cause-effect here. Look instead for what God can do." Today, we're caught in all sorts of crossfire conversations. Whose fault is it with our education system? I mean, if we get to the root cause, we could fix it or we could fix them. We have waged political wars on who is right. You hear the same rhetoric. It's the school system. It's the parents. It's all the immigrants, whether they be legal or illegal. It's the teachers. It's even now become the curriculum. Isn't that how we look at things, affixing blame, yet God sees it as an opportunity? Metro Nashville Public Schools has made great strides over the last several years. Remember, they cast a wide net. Consider for a moment who they are educating. Over 82,000 students, coming from 120 different countries, 25% of whom are English language learners, 72% coming from economically disadvantaged families, and over 3,000 students are homeless children. The beauty of United for Hope is that we get to bypass, in a sense, the conversation of cause and effect and of assigning blame. We have the privilege of serving schools through church-school one-on-one partnerships. We assist at the discretion of the principal and his team what the school's greatest needs are. We stay in our lane of serving, not proselytizing. The United for Hope Church partner comes alongside the schools and serves in multitudes of ways. Reading tutors, math tutors, teacher support and encouragement, supply drives, special projects, facility and landscaping projects, and the list goes on and on and on. We have learned that these challenges become opportunities which are divinely appointed. When God comes first, results happen. Let me share some of those results with you. In 2014-15 academic year, with 10 churches serving as United for Hope partners, the following was accomplished. There were over 3,300 volunteers serving 7,300 plus hours, which had an in-kind value of $162,000, and financially over $40,000 of gifts were given. And therefore, United for Hope receives the 2015 Mayor's Award. So let's hear the rest of the conversation that Jesus was having with his disciples. He says, "We need to be energetically at work for the one who sent me here, working while the sun shines. When night falls, the workday is over." People, there are over 900 churches in Davidson County. 1% of those are United for Hope partners. What would the results look like if 10, 20, 30% of churches were involved? You do the math. In fact, I'm sure the governor would give us an award at that point. As Helen Keller described it, the greatest handicap is to have sight and no vision. In 2016, we desire to more than double the number of United for Hope church partners. Won't you be one of those serving churches? There's no time to waste. Nightfall is coming. United for Hope is here for you to assist your church with your serve, welcoming challenges in a way that glorifies God.
That's as simple as going home and getting your church involved into the lives of the school that is very close or very far across town, perhaps. And yet, what a wonderful, wonderful work to see how God is working in these children's lives. The work of OAG is very, very simple. It's nothing more than enabling churches to work collaboratively to be Jesus to the city. It is time again that we work collaboratively, that we no longer look at each other with our differences, but we look at each other for our similarities. And we unite together. We unite for hope in the children in the next generation. We unite like oak trees and acorns in doing the mentoring project. If you will join us in supporting OAG this year, one of the vision programs that we would like to start after the first of the year is what we're calling the LINK program. Nashville has been the beneficiary of the vision of Nelson Andrews for years with a program that we call Leadership Nashville. It has expanded to be Leadership Tennessee now because it had so much success right here in our city. That program, while it has so many good things going on, it allows one pastor a year into that program. Can you imagine how long it's going to take for the spiritual leaders of our churches to know what's going on in our city? So Operation Andrew is willing to step forward and put together the work that it's going to take for our pastors to know our prison systems and our school districts and our school systems, for them to get to know the work that goes on every day in our healthcare, in our printing, in our music industry. How can we be Jesus to Nashville? How can we get engaged in this city so that we can be the hands and feet and be more engaged than ever before? OAG would love to sponsor that program and do the work that it takes to have our pastors know that city. Allow 24 of them to get on a bus in the morning without their cell phones. And not only do they get to know each other, but then they get to see our city and how they can go back and foster help. If you're willing to help me in sponsoring that program, it doesn't take much money, but it's got to have some. We've got to have a director. We've got to have some workers. I ask you to claim Operation Andrew in your end of the year philanthropy. We are willing and we are here, but it's going to take all of us together, working together. And we trust that you will claim OAG and join us in being Jesus to this city. I'm going to invite the Speaker of the House, Beth Harwell, who has just so wonderfully engaged with Operation Andrew over the years, to come and introduce our speaker for tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you so much for being here tonight to support Operation Andrew. As a past recipient of this recognition, I want to tell you that Operation Andrew has had a tremendous impact on our city. And I want to congratulate our wonderful selection this evening, Stuart McWhorter. And tonight, to tell us a little bit more about Stuart, we have Bill Haslam, the governor of our state, the former mayor of Knoxville, and the former president of Pilot. But tonight, I want to introduce Bill Haslam using his own words, saying that he has been incredibly blessed. He was raised in Knoxville and blessed with parents who instilled their strong faith and work ethic in their children. When he was 16, the sudden and unexpected death of his mother marked a turning point in his young life. But the family leaned on each other and on their faith to get through those days. He will also tell you that he has been incredibly blessed to be married to his lovely wife, the First Lady of Tennessee, Chrissy Haslam, with whom he has 3 children. But what you may not know is that they met on their first day of classes at Emory University. There at Emory, he was a volunteer leader for Young Life, the Christian ministry that reaches out to adolescents. It was such an important experience to him that he now serves on the Young Life Board of Trustees. We are fortunate to have a man with such a strong Christian faith leading this state. So strong, in fact, the Governor Haslam initially thought he would graduate college, teach high school history for a few years, then go to seminary and become a pastor. And while he didn't end up taking that path, he and Chrissy have remained committed and very involved in their church for more than 3 decades. To have a governor and a first lady who live Christ-centered life is truly a blessing for all of us. This has been very apparent to me as I have up close watched him lead our state. Rooted in faith, he has a genuine desire to make Tennessee the best, but not just so we can claim that mantle. He truly wants every Tennessean to have the opportunity to thrive and succeed. It is my honor tonight to introduce my friend and a man I greatly admire, Bill Haslam.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, and please have a seat. Speaker, I really appreciate you doing that. The Speaker and I work together very closely, and you get to see each other in all types of situations. The week before last, we were up in New York representing the state to the bond rating agencies, and you should know this, the Speaker is faithful in a lot of ways, including getting up early in the morning to exercise. So I would go down to the hotel workout room at whatever time that I figured I could work out, run back, take a shower, and she would be wrapping up at that point in time, so I was really impressed. And those of you who think that the Speaker's job is like herding cats are giving way too much credit to that. It would be like herding cats if cats ran in packs of 99 and had to run for office every 2 years. It is an incredibly difficult job, and every now and then people talk about how hard my job is, and then I sit down and talk with Beth and think, I got it made. So thank you, Speaker. I have often quoted about the Speaker a line that Margaret Thatcher used, and she said that being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to tell someone that you are, then you're not. And the Speaker lives out both of those in a way that makes our state proud, and we're grateful for that. Thank you, Beth. And before I go further, let me thank Lipscomb for hosting this. I've had a couple of great conversations at our table. Charles McGowan said he knows that I happen to come here to work out. The president's nice enough to let me use the workout facilities. He said, well, are you still being faithful? I said, well, dang, now I got the pastor checking on me, not only about, how's my spiritual life, but how's my physical workout life. But it is good. Some of you have heard me tell the story that I started coming here when I first, in Knoxville, even though you're mayor, it's just not all that big a deal, and you can go wherever you want, and people don't grab you. But I started working out at the YMCA downtown here, and I noticed you got on that treadmill, and people figured out that you were trapped and you weren't going anywhere, and that was their chance to talk to the governor. And so while I'm gasping for air on this treadmill, people are coming up and saying, I've been trying to get an appointment with you for 6 months, and I've got the best idea for the state. And so the Lowrys were nice enough to let me come work out here, and then I got a separate kind of wake up when I was here one Saturday, and it was really nice because I was here all by myself, and really beautiful workout facilities. And this student comes in, and it's nice because college students don't really know or care who the governor is. And the guy looks over at me on the other side of the room. He's on the phone. He goes, no, man, it's just me in here. Well, just me and this one real old dude, so it'd be great. But in all seriousness, the other conversation we had was that, I wasn't here then, but from what I understand, that many years ago, Lipscomb was much more of an insular place and was more inward focused in terms of training the people that had come here. But Lipscomb, while it still is very faithful to that mission, now does so much more than that. And you can't come here anytime, because I'm here all different times of the day and night, weekends, summer, holidays, without there being some sort of group that is a part that's come to this campus to use facilities. So we're very, very grateful for that. Okay, so you might ask, well, why is the governor here? Well, I'm here because I have a lot of respect for Stuart McWhorter. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the first reason I'm here is because I love the idea of this ward, and Joe and Honey Rodgers are people that literally are legends. And you think, what kind of an impact, what impact they had on so many people. And so I love it that we would not only salute that, but emulate that and then recognize people who are living out life that way. I love the idea that I got some information before I came here and it said it's all based on the idea of living out your faith in an increasingly secular world, which if there's a appropriate topic for today, that might be it. This is a world where people are saying, don't bring your faith to the public square, or don't bring your faith to the market square. That's not the appropriate venue. But I would make just the opposite argument. All of us, no matter who you are, you have your own worldview. You've put your faith in something. Maybe it's your job, or maybe it's your wealth, or maybe it's your status, whatever it is. Everybody comes with their own worldview about what's important and what's true. And so it would be the absolute wrong thing to say that people of faith don't belong in the public square and market square, that they're somehow to be segregated or cloistered in just a religious environment. So I love the whole idea of how do we encourage people to bring the thing that matters the most to them to the public square and market square, because that's the challenge today, right? People are saying, how do we live with our deepest differences? You see that when the Supreme Court announces a decision regarding same-sex marriage, or a decision comes out about abortion, and you realize in our deepest being, we see the world very differently from each other. And so the challenge for whether you're a person of faith or not is, how do you learn to live with those deepest differences? And Nashville and the state and the world would be lacking if people of faith didn't bring their viewpoint to learning how to live with those deepest differences. And so I love the way that Mrs. Lowry talked about the mission of Operation Andrew Group, that regardless of your background or where you're coming from, this effort to reach out and say, how do we encourage people to get past those surface, or they're not surface, they're deep differences, but get past those to work towards solutions. So I'm here because I'm a fan of Stuart, but I'm also here because I'm a fan of what Operation Andrew is trying to do. But it's particularly gratifying to me to see you recognize Stuart. We have a lot in common. We both have fathers who have done very well and are fairly prominent and renowned in their own right. We both married way over our head. We both have loved being a part of the business world, but have also thought about what might that look like to have a more public role. So those things we have in common. We have a few things differently. I got to 3 children and felt like that was plenty. Stuart had 4 and then went and brought 2 more beautiful daughters home as well. I went to college football games, occasionally dressed in orange. Stuart went to college football games dressed as a tiger. Clemson, Stuart was dressed up as the tiger for Clemson University to football games, and I keep trying. I know some people there. I keep trying to dig up some old footage of as Stuart as the tiger to bring back to us. 3 quick things that I'd love to share about why I think you've picked the right person to honor tonight in Stuart. When I knew who Stuart was before I ever came over here, we had met occasionally, and our dads have been friends for many years. But I was so impressed when I first met him. That he had a real heart and desire to think about, how do I, obviously really involved with their companies, and he's served on lots of boards, but he just kind of intrinsically in his gut said, I want to do something that feels a little bigger, that feels a part of the community or a part of the state. And so he's thought about several things, but I just was always impressed that it is heart. He said, I love this and I can keep doing what I'm doing. I'd like to be a part of something bigger, that call to do that. Number 2, you can't help but be impressed with his family. Like I said, he married way over his head. But then the children that they're raising and the efforts that they're putting into that and the desire to do that in a way that is honoring to the Lord is impressive to me, and a person that has as much going on as Stuart does. But the third thing I'll do is this, and I hope I'm not sharing something that I shouldn't be sharing in this, but I think as most of y'all know, at one point in time, Stuart thought about running for mayor. And he and his wife came over and had dinner with us just to talk about life in the public sphere. And I was, when they left and Chrissy and I were walking upstairs, we both were said how impressed we were that the questions that the McWhorters were asking were questions of the heart. Lots of people come, when you're in office, a lot of people come to say, hey, I've never run before, I'm thinking about running, tell me what it's like. And usually the questions come down to, well, do you think I can win? But Stuart's questions in deciding about whether that was what he was called to had nothing to do with whether you think you can win, but it was about, tell me about why you do it. Tell me what the impact looks like. Tell me about the impact on your family. Tell me why you felt called to do this versus something else. They were all questions of the heart and not just questions about how he might affect the outcome. And when you see somebody wrestling with a decision, you get to know their heart in a way that nothing else will. You can work alongside people for a long time and never see their heart until you see them wrestle with some personal decision. And for us to have a little window into the McWhorters as they wrestled through that and made the decision for them, which obviously, as you know, was not to run, but for them, they felt like was the right calling for them, and to make that decision for all the right reasons instead of just looking and saying, that looks hard, not sure if I can win, I don't think I'll do it. Instead to say, where do we think, given where our life is right now, that God has called us to? So then they do the more listening and discerning of where they might be led to, and end up at the Entrepreneur Center, which I personally am so grateful for. Again, Stuart could go be doing all this for himself, but instead he's thought, how can I do this to help continue to build this community and to make this even more of a place that is thriving? One of my favorite Bible verses is Jeremiah 29:7. And just to set the situation for you real quick, the people of Israel are caught in bondage in Babylon, so it's like us being trapped in Iraq. And the leader is not a good guy, and they're stuck. And their leader is Jeremiah's back in Jerusalem. So they took most of the Israelis or the Jewish people, took them to Babylon. But Jeremiah, I don't know if they didn't think he was worth taking or what, but he's back in Jerusalem. But he writes them a letter, and he says this: if I'm writing a letter to them, here's what I say. I say, keep your head down, stay out of trouble. We'll try to get you out as quick as we can. But Jeremiah writes something very different to God's people who are trapped in Babylon. He says, seek the peace of the city, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. And he tells them to plant gardens and have their children marry and to become a part of that community. And to me, if you ask, well, what's Operation Andrew about? It's about seeking the peace of the city to which you were called. All of us have been called here for a variety of reasons to play a variety of roles. But what I appreciate about Stuart and Leanne is the idea of how's God called us to seek the peace of this city? And my personal feeling is that this city has been blessed because that's their view and their call of how they might do that. So, Stuart, congratulations. You are a very worthy recipient of this. I'm proud to call you my friend, and it's been an honor to be a partner with you in various ways since we had the chance to come to Nashville. Congratulations.
Hey everybody, it's Kirk Herbstreit from ESPN. I'm very sorry that I could not be there tonight for this lovely event. I'd like to firsthand congratulate Stuart on such an amazing honor, such a well-deserved honor. I've lived now in Nashville for 4 years, and it's funny when I look back when I first moved here, kind of a scared guy in a new town. One of the first guys I came in contact with our boys on the same Little League team was Stuart McWhorter. He welcomed me in with his wife Leanne and his family, and just made us feel as part of the group, and just made us feel really at home. And from that point on, we've just been great friends, stayed in touch, and our families have grown together over the years, and just really appreciate that relationship, and that friendship means a lot to me personally. And boy, it's when I heard that you receive this honor. I couldn't think of anybody that's more deserving than you to receive this. Obviously, you do so much for this community as far as the business side of things, and I don't know a better guy who walks the walk when it comes to his faith. So congratulations on this wonderful honor, and I will see you Sunday at the Titans game.
Stuart, congratulations for receiving the Joe and Honey Rodgers Civic Leader of the Year Award. You so deserve it. And honestly, you deserve it just in the last 6 months for what you've done with the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. There were many candidates that were looked into as far as getting that job, and you were selected for good reason. You brought your leadership skills there. You have just raised that place to a new level over the last 6 months. Your connections in the music industry are amazing. Many people don't know how well connected you are. And just giving young people and individuals an opportunity to develop their businesses, get funding, hopefully bring new ideas to the music industry is extraordinary. So thank you for giving your life away and just the servant leadership you have shown over there in the last 6 months. Congratulations.
As a parent, when you bring a child into the world, your greatest wish is that they become a good citizen of the community, that they develop a strong faith, that they become a good family person, that they raise their children accordingly, that they treat their fellow man with respect, and they work hard. They're also a person to give back of their time, their talent, and their treasure. With Stuart, I think we hit a home run because, in my opinion, he has attained these attributes that was just mentioned. I've had the good fortune as the father to work up close with Stuart for the past 20 years, and I've been able to observe his leadership, how he's grown in stature, how he's helped develop other young entrepreneurs over these 20 years, and now even a greater opportunity at the Entrepreneur Center. So Stuart, congratulations on receiving this honor and this recognition. Well deserved. I am so proud to call you my son. You're the best, Dad.
I'm going to ask Honey Rodgers and Charles McGowan, the founding director of Operation Andrew Group, and our chairman of the board, Henry Coles, to come join me here. I would like for Charles to just say a word about the person for whom this award is named.
Thank you very, very much, Rhonda. It's a great privilege for me to present to you my good friend and dear sister in the Lord, Honey Rodgers. It was my privilege to be her pastor and her husband's pastor for a good many years at Christ Presbyterian Church out on the south side of the city. And when I stepped aside in the year 2000, the Operation Andrew board asked me if I would take over the executive leadership of Operation Andrew. I didn't give them a quick answer because I needed to talk to Joe Rodgers. You see, Joe Rodgers was one of the founders of Operation Andrew. He was a chairman of the steering committee of the Billy Graham Crusade that was held here in June 2000. And he and about 35 other civic and business leaders in the community worked hard to see that crusade take place and be successful. But they discovered in the process, I was on the steering committee, we discovered in the process that there needed to be an ongoing ministry in the city that would seek to bring unity and would make more visible the unity in the body of Christ and to make it more functional. And that was Joe's vision. And it's a vision that he convinced us we needed to embrace, and so we did. And so after the crusade was over, we incorporated and we formed Operation Andrew around John's chapter 17, verse 21. That portion of Jesus' high priestly prayer where he prayed, Father, I pray that they may be one as you and I are one, so that the world might believe that you sent me. Joe Rodgers was a leader, and God saw fit to take him home several years ago, and I believe with all my heart he is looking down tonight and rejoiced that we pledged allegiance to the flag. And I believe with all my heart that he rejoiced that the name of Jesus is being honored. Because you see, there are very few men in our world like Joe Rodgers. Joe was a man who was a very, very successful businessman, a man who was an outstanding civic leader. He was a friend to people who were known in the political world around the world, personal friend of presidents, perhaps the best ambassador to France that this nation has ever known. But the thing for which Joe Rodgers wanted to be most known for was that he was a follower of Jesus. As we had serious conversations toward the end of his life, he made me promise. He looked at me as only Joe could. And he said, Charles, you're going to have my funeral. And I'm counting on you to tell the people about Jesus. Can I count on you to do that? And I made him a promise. When Joe was diagnosed with the illness that eventually took him to heaven, the board of directors of Operation Andrew wanted to honor him. And we planned an event just to honor Joe and Honey. And then he became so ill he couldn't attend the event, and we had to cancel it. But the board of directors decided, after we celebrated Joe's life together, the board of directors decided that it was not too late to honor Joe and Honey Rodgers. And so we established the Joe and Honey Rodgers Leadership Award, which we tonight are again celebrating by honoring an outstanding Christian leader in our city. I think it's important for us to know something of that story and to rehearse it every year, because we are continuing the legacy that has been left by Joe Rodgers. We're so thankful for Honey, and we all know that she was the one behind the scenes that kept him straight. And it wasn't always easy for Honey. I know, because I was their pastor. And yet, God chooses and has chosen to use this couple, Joe and Honey Rodgers, in a fantastic way. Anything that happened good in the city of Nashville during the course of their residency in our city probably involved Joe and Honey Rodgers, and oftentimes was led by them. So tonight it's a pleasure for me to kind of rehearse and to recount my wonderful memories of Joe Rodgers and the impact he's had not only on me personally as a friend, as a brother, but as a leader in our city and a leader in our nation. Joe, Honey, we're delighted tonight that we can still have you with us. And we're looking forward to the day when we'll be reunited with our brother Joe. And thank you for coming and continuing to support the ministry of Operation Andrew.
So here we are, and in the long line of love and legacy as Christian civic leaders, would you welcome to the stage Mr. Stuart McWhorter? Let me read what will be on the citation. Whereas Stuart McWhorter has been a loving and honorable son, a faithful and loving husband to Leanne Hendricks, a loving and supportive father to Clayton, Thomas, Caroline, Marley, and Layla. Whereas Stuart McWhorter has been and continues to be a servant leader in all aspects of his life, but especially through his spiritual journey, shared in part with the church community at the Fellowship Bible Church. Whereas Stuart McWhorter is the founding member of the Brentwood venture capital firm of Clayton Associates and has invested in Nashville companies for nearly 2 decades. Companies ranging in scope from healthcare to technology and food trucks to office supplies. Whereas Stuart McWhorter continues to seek and now seeks, and I quote, to give back to the city that's given me so much, end of quote. Through his service as director of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, we honor you by awarding to you the 2015 Christian Civic Leader of the Year of Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you.
It's beautiful. Wow, thank you very much. That's great. Good to see you. Thank you.
Stuart, before you give remarks, let me explain this piece because this is a new addition to this year's dinner. This is a handmade piece by an artist in Vermont that is made specifically to show the complexity of what it means to be a Christian in a secular world. Simon Pierce made this piece for us, and we give it tonight, thanking you for your leadership in this city. Stuart, thank you.
Thanks again. Thank you. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Operation Andrew, to the board. This is I'll tell a story in a minute, but a great honor. First, I want to just thank Governor Haslam for being here and making those remarks. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy, and it's just a special thing for me to have you here. Speaker Harwell, thank you as well for being here, and congratulations on being a recipient a few years ago. Also just want to recognize Governor Winfield Dunn and Betty. They're here. Leanne and I had the pleasure of being with them several years ago and went down to Florida and went to a festival and got to kind of hang out with you guys for a weekend and had the best time. Leanne and Miss Betty went out shopping, found the malls, and were gone for the day and had a great time. And it's always good to see you and glad you're here. And of course, Howard Gentry is here. Howard's on the board of Operation Andrew and just been a good friend and really appreciate his service to the city as well. This is a tough thing to do because I got 5 kids out here. They were going to be my strongest and most critical audience. I'm sure when we get in the car, they're going to tell me about how well I did. So I can usually do these pretty well, but having my own children in the audience might be it's going to be a curveball for me. But I just want to, again, just say thanks to Operation Andrew, to Lipscomb, to Rhonda. You know, I don't know if this came, I don't think it did, but Rhonda had, was it hip or knee? She had knee replacement surgery 2 weeks ago. And she's been standing up here walking around speaking, and I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff. I told her, I know that you have to get out quickly. When you have that surgery, they want you to move around, and she's moving around, but moving around very gracefully. So I really appreciate her dedication, not only to Operation Andrew and to Nashville, but to this event, and certainly for me in receiving this award. So my story is this. I got a call from Rhonda's assistant insisting on a meeting. And that's about the time I just got started at the Entrepreneur Center. And we got it on the calendar. I didn't know what it was about. There was no topic about this meeting, but I knew Rhonda, and I know obviously what she does for the city, and wanted to listen to what she wanted to meet about. So she shows up with Lynn Morrow, who's also on the board and been a friend for a long time. And they start talking about Operation Andrew. We started talking about what's going on at the Entrepreneur Center. And they talk about tonight's event. And I knew about this event. I've been to, I believe I came to the one that Sam Bartholomew was awarded. And so I knew enough about it, and we continued the conversation. And I felt I knew where this conversation was going, which was, we need to identify this year's recipient. And as we kept talking, I was thinking in my mind, they're going to want me to be on the search committee. and have some ideas, give them some names, who could be well deserving of this award. And as we kept talking, the conversation then turned to me and said, we would like you to consider this award and be this year's candidate. And I was shocked. I had no idea that they were there to ask me to consider this. I honestly, truthfully thought that it was, hey, give us some ideas. Who do you know who would be good for this? And I obviously had some really good ideas, one of which was not me. But I was honored and humbled by the request. So with that, I'll just say this. I think we've talked enough or a little bit about Operation Andrew, but tonight isn't about me. It's about the work of Operation Andrew. I was honored and blessed to work with them back in 2006. In 2007, we did an event here in Nashville called City Fest with Luis Palau. I co-chaired that event, and one of the first groups that I connected with was Charles McGowan, Mike Arrington at Operation Andrew, because of the work that they did back in 2000, I believe, when Billy Graham's crusade was here, and they had continued on and kept the organization intact, and that was such a great resource for us because we needed to have the churches involved with what we were doing. We went out and raised $2 million, had this wonderful event downtown, 100,000 people over 2 days, but it was such a great honor and great work that Operation Andrew provided for us to make that happen, because without them, we wouldn't have been able to do it. There's just no way. And as we had spoken earlier, tonight's about honoring Joe and Honey Rodgers. I actually had the great privilege of getting to know Joe and spending a lot of time with Joe, particularly around that time when we did the Palau event. He wanted to sit down with me and hear what we were doing and how we were going to do it. He was testing me. I knew he was, and asking me lots of questions that were very deliberate around why do you want to do it and how are you going to do it. And we had a great conversation, and really that was that conversation that propelled the support of Operation Andrew with what we were doing. And tonight is also about recognizing the previous recipients that we've talked about. Miles Ezel, Marty Dickens, Speaker Harwell, Lee Beeman, Lee Barfield, Sam Bartholomew, a list that I certainly respect, and I don't see myself at all comparing or being in that list of names that are just so great. But it is about recognizing not only the work that they have done in the past, but what they're doing today. So for me personally, perhaps it's just also about those who have impacted my life. When I think about my life and what I've done and the things I've been involved in, it's really a simple collection of values and beliefs of a lot of people. Someone once told me, Stuart, your antenna rises high. You have a unique sense of learning qualities and habits and traits of others. And I just like to always be around people and learn about how they do what they do and try to emulate that in so many different ways. But so with that, I do want to mention a few people that have impacted me in a lot of ways. First is my family. My wife, Leanne, who I obviously love so much, and her support of me through these last 15, 16 years that we've been married has been unbelievable. She's truly my hero, and with five kids, she deserves an extra shout out because it's a lot of work. I know that I can always rely on her on anything. If I needed to vent, if I need to complain, if I need to get ideas, I just always know, no matter what, I'm going to get a thoughtful and respectful feedback from her. To my kids, I love you guys. I'm glad you're here. You get to see Daddy up here. I hope I'm not going to embarrass you too much. And like I said, they're not shy. They're probably my best critics. Tell me what I need to be doing and how I can be better. And for that, it makes me better. To my mother in Florida, she couldn't be here tonight, but for her love and support, she was a strict rule maker. She ran a tight ship at home when I was growing up, and it really, it not only put discipline in my life, but it was really laying the foundation of accountability and respect for others. She also dragged me to church. When I was a kid, I didn't ever like to go to church, but I don't know many kids that do. But she always took me to church. But what that did, looking back, really connecting with my youth group at that time, ultimately led to my journey of faith. And to my dad, of course, who spoke tonight, the unbelievable relationship we've had together, not only as a son and father, but also as a business partner. He's taught me so much. Many of you know who he is and what he's done in life, and it's what's so great about Dad is that's the real deal. He's very authentic, doesn't ever forget where he came from, how hard it was as a family of a single mother, and it's just those values have been passed on to me in so many ways, and I'm so grateful for that. And just, to a few others that I want to mention. None of them are here, but I was so lucky to have some great men in my life in high school, many of my coaches in sports. For them, it wasn't about the X's and O's. It was about being a man, being held accountable, being a leader, having confidence, most of all, and just loving the Lord. They were all men of faith. And looking back at the time and the impact that had on me growing up, particularly at that time in my life, was invaluable. And I just will never forget what that meant to me. Even in my college days at Clemson, some of the relationships that I built along the way taught me how, with my friends, how to continue to push myself, find new pathways, try new things. The governor mentioned I was the tiger. I didn't go to Clemson to be the tiger. It's not like I decided that I'm going to go and put on a suit. I didn't even know what it was. I probably knew that we had a tiger mascot, but I had no idea. But a good friend of mine, who's still a very good friend of mine, was the tiger at the time and dared me to do it, and I did it. And I just can't tell you, you have to be a mascot to know what that means. But it was an amazing experience. I did it for 2.5 years. And what's so good, I'm a pretty reserved person, right? So you put the suit on, it'll transform you. And you can do anything, almost anything that you want to, and get away with it for the most part. But what that taught me was being on time, being responsible. I was representing a university, in a very big university, and a reputation. It was about pride. For the first time, you had something that you could really be proud of and have that pride, that school pride. That really continues on with me today. My first boss coming out of school, graduate school at UAB, what was so great about that opportunity and what I learned from that was the ability to fail and learn from failure, that it was okay to fail. Throw me in the fire, let me make mistakes, and what did you learn as a result of that? He let me do that so many times, but I did. I learned a lot, many lessons, not only career but life. To my really good friend and pastor, Bill Wellens, he and his wife, Hillary, have been really good friends to Leanne and I. What's so great about Bill is he's not my buddy on just Sunday. He's my buddy every day, and that's so great. He even calls me for spiritual advice, and I love that about him. Lastly is Clayton Associates, many of whom are here. Like Dad said in the video, we've been at it almost 20 years. January will be 20 years. Hard to believe, really. And what I've learned during that period of time is it's not about the investments or the returns that we occasionally get, which we do. We wouldn't be at this for 20 years if we didn't have success, but it's really not about that. What it's about is it's doing the right thing. It's being authentic. It's treating people with respect and never expect or require anything in return. Just doing the right thing. And that's just gone so far for our firm, our brand, and who we all stand for. Everybody that's there, I think, exemplifies that. So leadership for me is simple. It's a collection of people and experiences. It's servant leadership. No fancy books that I read. I didn't take anything out of the page, although those are helpful. That's not who I am. It's just simply doing what is right. Know with the utmost confidence that the results, however you define that, will always be there. And it's not an easy gig. Many of you in this room are leaders, and you know it's hard. I think of Luke 12:48. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. I think of that every day, every week. And do my best to do and act, not just say it, but actually do it. It's about what you do and not what you say. I did take this job at the Entrepreneur Center 6 months ago, and it's been a blast. To represent entrepreneurship in the city of Nashville right now is like being a rock star right now. It's amazing. I don't have to do a lot. It's just, you're just part of the ride. We've got some great things going on thanks to not only the groundwork that's been laid the last 5 years, but the last 50 years. Thanks to the great work that our governor and our legislators are doing just to make Tennessee a great place to do business. But our goal is to be the best place in America to start and grow a business. That's what we will do, and we will get there because we have all the resources to make that happen. But it's not just work. It's not what I do every day at the Entrepreneur Center. It's just my daily walk. What are the things that really get me excited? And those are things like helping someone start a business. Yeah, we do that at the Entrepreneur Center, and that's part of our mission, what we're required to do, but there's a lot more to it. You're changing people's lives. In some cases, bringing them out of poverty, doing something that they love and getting paid to do it, and not doing it because of the money. Helping someone go to school so that they can one day make a contribution to society. It's a great thing to do. Helping someone simply just get a job, get a start, give them a chance because nobody else would do that. Or simply going to a foreign country to provide clean water, access to basic health care, or perhaps in our case, in Leanne and I, in our family's case, bring home 2 beautiful girls and give them a chance at life. So I ask you this, just as I ask myself, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about Luke 12:48? It's not always enough to hit a milestone in life. Yes, we should celebrate those, we should, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about changing the world, your community? What are you going to do about it? Don't underestimate what can be done, what you can do. Don't get comfortable because we're just not supposed to be comfortable. Be anxious about it. Step out. Give, serve, and as we say at Clayton Associates, be relevant. Retirement is just overrated. So I thank you for this. It's a great honor. I'm blessed beyond all measure. Thank you again to Operation Andrew, to Rhonda and the board, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Remain standing for just a minute, if you will. We're going to close tonight, but I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to some people. When I found out I had to have surgery 2 weeks before this dinner, I panicked. And then the Lord said, yes, but there's always Janet Slayton. And she took over, and I cannot thank you enough, Janet, for all you did to make tonight work. For the people that cooked our dinner, yes, please. For the Operation Andrew board, for the people that helped us raise money for our event sponsors tonight, Beeman and Associates, Ezell Foundation, and Lipscomb University, we are indeed grateful. I think the governor said it tonight before any of the rest of us could, but our challenge as we leave tonight is to go into the city and take the peace of Christ that we know. Take the story of what it means to be a body for someone that gave his life for us, and to be the hands and feet of Jesus in a world that so desperately needs us. Please enjoy the singing of the benediction by the Lipscomb Academy Chorus, and thank you for being here.